And that brand that we're creating, where people get to know me, we have 8 social media handles. There's a female leader behind it. There's a farm. That's our niche, because people find us and they don't forget. And that's what you want. You want to be memorable.
I'm honored to bring Franny from Franny's Farmacy onto the show. She's got an incredible resume. She's the first female farmer to plant hemp in North Carolina in over 75 years. She was featured on PBS NewsHour. She's a TEDx speaker. She was a keynote speaker. She's a founding and executive member of national nonprofit Women in Hemp, and also a Smithsonian Institute scholarship recipient as well. In this episode, we talk about a lot of things. We talk about her keys to running a successful dispensary, the importance of mentors and where to find them, how to build a good team, and the importance of also walking through the fire, learning lessons, and becoming a better person on the other side. You're not going to want to miss it. I'll see you over there. Franny, thanks for hopping on the Dispensary Marketing Podcast.
I'm happy to be here. Good to see you.
I'm happy to have you here too. So, what are your keys to running a successful dispensary?
Well, we run several dispensaries. So leading with the heart is very important. We need to use our 3 brains. I also love do no harm, take no shit. And systems will set you free. It makes everybody easier. These are some really basics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are very, very simple. I'm a big systems guy myself, but maybe the systems lesson isn't necessarily learned right at the beginning, right? So how long would you say it took you to kind of arrive at these kind of pillars of success?
I'm always continuously improving. That is one of our mottos, is if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying. And so we go at improving our systems fearlessly all the time. And even in this past year, AI and ChatGPT have changed everything that we do. So continuous improvement, and it takes a long time, and it takes a good team and people watching what's happening and reporting to know if your systems are working. So I would say all the time I'm improving, but 7 years since we opened our first dispensary, and really the entire model has changed from what we're doing for CRMs, shipping, order tracking. It's just constant. You cannot ever let that down. So we just keep getting better.
Right.
Yep.
Well, 7 years. What was the, let's say, the lay of the land when you first got started compared to right now?
Well, I was the first female farmer in North Carolina to plant hemp, and the first in our city to open a dispensary. So it is very different now from the original dispensary we opened, which we're about to celebrate our anniversary. There are now 38 stores within a 5-mile radius that sell the same products we do. So very, very different market. And we've gone through every 2 years, the system, we see this. It's a rise and fall, all new people. So we're that right now. I would say 9 of those opened in the past 4 months. So we're in another green rush because North Carolina legalized on our reservation medical, and now leaning into recreational. And our state is also passing legislation, trying to get legislation passed so we continue to evolve in cannabis. So all eyes continue to look at North Carolina. We were the 3rd state that grew, the 5th state to be licensed in CBD and hemp, and we are unregulated. So THCA, we even categorize our products, anything that's psychoactive and could get you high. It all comes in this beautiful slate gray and dark color packaging, where all the health and wellness are more in colors and botanicals. So we're in a really interesting state in North Carolina, have dispensaries in other states that have been not so kind legally to the progress. But e-com, thank goodness for e-com. Thank goodness for e-com. We ship everywhere.
Yes, bringing the world worldwide.
Oh, yeah.
So with all the competition and stuff, I think one of the themes of me kind of interviewing a lot of these dispensary owners is, there's a lot of competition coming into the fold. As you said it, we would say you're an OG in the space, you're a pioneer, so you've seen the peaks and troughs, right? So how would you categorize how you're kind of handling the competition coming into the market? Like, do you try and beat everyone out? Is it a patience game? Do you know that good business fundamentals will beat all? Kind of what's your thought process on, the incoming competition?
So I've been in the underground. I was in the Oregon cannabis market for over 2 decades. This is when I was working in pharmaceuticals. So I got to learn a whole lot of stuff. My name wasn't on anything. I was just a business consultant. We were working through all sorts of things. And so when I got to redo it this time in North Carolina, it's all about the brand. I've had this farm for over 12 years, and this is what is the steady in the storm. It's what sits in the eye of the storm as everything else is whirling around us, between medical coming into the fields and taking away some of our opportunities to sell cannabinoids, recreational coming behind that, new brands. We have seen people that came in and they were going to be right? They put so much money, so much marketing, and just like that, in 2 years, they're gone. So I've had enough experience to put a lot of space between the noise and what's actually happening. And we've been slow and steady. Don't over budget, over market, over anything. This is the long haul plan. And having a brand makes all the difference. There's a lot of people out there that are selling products, and we're selling a brand. We have a farm. We actually have a real CEO. We have somebody that, like myself, that is out there every day destigmatizing cannabis and speaking up for it legally, TED Talks, press conferences. And so this is our magic sauce. This is our gold nugget to ride anything. But I consult a lot of other companies and other business owners that obviously they have a brand, but that's what we always seek to differentiate, because essentially they all have products.
Right.
And it's hard to differentiate in a market. It really is. And the competition dilutes the market. We have more stuff than we would ever need to supply everybody. So it's very important in the marketing. Yeah.
So not to reveal, well, I don't know if there's any tricks to the trade or any secrets or anything like that. But obviously you have a heavy emphasis on brand, and you think it's the thing that's going to ensure longevity for your business, right? So what are your kind of main pillars of growing a brand or ensuring that the brand stays where it needs to stay and it doesn't get taken over by these people who have really deep pockets and a lot of money to blow?
Well, there's really, marketing 101, we wish applied to cannabis. But it really doesn't, because a lot of the avenues we're not able to use because of the regulations. And so it's very important when, strategically planning the business, what avenues to go through. This is not a market that you want to shotgun approach and be casting all these bullets out and say, this is what the peak of failure was. They're like, I'm going to go out and get all the market, capitalize on everything. And, that is not what you can do. So we niche. Who is our market? We know very well who our market is. And analytics and data drives all of where your dollars need to go. And, I love the whole marketing and sales aspect of it. It's very different in being able to connect with your customers as well. So it's a really interesting place to be, it really is.
So what are your biggest challenges right now?
The biggest challenges always are the competition. That's, always having to navigate what competition is coming in and throwing money at it. Legalities. We're in multiple states. And so even though we ship to every state, which is always the solid thing that keeps us in business, with the way regulations change, they're that also changes how we get to market. So in normal businesses, you set a precedent for your sales, and you grow as you expand your market. Well, in 7 years, we had smokable hemp. That's so long ago, but we fought that. We had 15 tinctures when we first started. That's not the market anymore. Then D8 came in. So we have these things, and the law took it away. So we're always going with what can we really market? We really need a federal standard. So that's been big. In Virginia, got to be the poster child for the class action lawsuit. The state is doing things. The state can be more strict than the federal government, but they cannot be looser. So what we have is states going in right now, especially in the South, it's hitting, and it's just changing everything. And we won a lawsuit in Virginia, but it was after it put us out of business in our dispensary and all our wholesale accounts, because they said everybody had to repackage in 2 milligram packaging, just ridiculous things. So, our biggest obstacles are not just mine. They're the same ones for everybody. We have limited access because of regulations in marketing, ongoing competition now coming in from the outside, and the legal challenges.
Yeah.
Risky place, but it sure is fun. The rewards are still worth it.
Right. So that kind of brings me to my next question. Like, if you were to start all over again, would you pick the same industry? Would you pick the same niche? Would you do this again? Just with all of everything that's going on. Seems very difficult journey to go through.
A lot of times how things work for me is an attraction and an alignment and an unfolding. My PhD coursework is teaching with the brain in mind. And one of the things we studied is set that 5-year goal, and you do whatever you have to do to achieve it. And that's super antiquated. It doesn't really even work. So being in this on a fun, an investment way in the Oregon market, I came into this with as much knowledge as I could. We started it. So I have no regrets. I made some really good financial decisions, and I made some that were not bad. They just weren't profitable and stayed in business. So yeah, we do it again. I mean, why not? Because I'd be doing something else crazy to shatter stigmas otherwise, because I'm kind of your typical super conservative, Nashville, private school, business, And so on the outside, I may look all these roles. I worked for pharmaceuticals for 15 years. Politicians love me until I get to talk to them face to face. And then I just blow their mind and shatter everything. I love this. I love to destigmatize and bring this plant. I feel like it's part of probably my purpose in this world. I'm a farmer at heart. I love farming. They called me Nature Mama when I was little. And so I love this plant. And what better way than to represent this beloved plant that changed my world. At 15, I just celebrated 40 years from the first time I smoked weed. And boy, has it been a best friend through everything.
Absolutely changed your life.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, so you are in charge of multiple locations, different states. As you said, you're shipping all over the world. What does that look like from a marketing perspective? Because a lot of times you have maybe your mom and pop dispensary shop that's like, hey, I'm located in this city. I want to get city famous, right? I'm shipping around my local area. Maybe they do delivery to the adjacent cities and stuff like that. But you are worldwide. You're working with a lot of owners, a lot of operators, trying to figure everything out. How do you go about making sure that your marketing is aligned with a specific niche that you set out to target initially, but not overspending, as you said, to make sure, that's, it'll be to your detriment later on down the line?
Well, that's a great question. And I really think and this is just marketing and feedback. Part of what people love about our brand when they reach it is it does feel small because it has a person. It started in a city everybody can go to, and it has a farm. So we welcome over 10,000 people a year for festivals here. So the feeling and that brand that we're creating, where people get to know me, we have 8 social media handles. There's a female leader behind it. There's a farm. That's our niche, because people find us and they don't forget. And that's what you want. You want to be memorable. So sometimes I've made my memories by accidentally telling Buck Nestle at a conference on stage when they were one of the sponsors. We make an impression a lot of different ways, but the point is to be memorable. And I know our market, and we are a high-end health and wellness brand. Even though we have all this psychoactive stuff, it's a trusted brand. So when we market, it's very specific to targeted audiences. This is why it's very important people have peers, mentors. It's very important. My mentors and my peer group are the ones that we're all the ones that are working on the international plans. And we're doing it together because it takes together. There is enough room for all of us. And it's really the evolution is in this energetic team that we have. One of my dear friends runs everything in Germany, another one, Australia. And that's how we market. We market to our people. And most of them are women and men in our, 50s and 60s, very experienced in business. And I just go back over and over and over to reporting. I always said, I know what our market is, but you don't really know until you get the numbers. And people would be surprised. We have 60% of our market in one area, and then we've got another 20 and 20 in these very specific niches. Those are the only people that we spend dollars to market to. And it's great. Our retail stores build, everything feeds in the machine. That's why long-term, setting your business up for long-term, this is not a get rich quick. I've had many offers come and go because if I'd accepted them, I would have been out of business. Really, you've got to have other people helping you make business decisions.
Right. And sorry, in terms of offers, you mean offers in terms of buying your business, in terms of partnering with you? What type of offers?
Well, I've had many M&A, mergers or acquisitions, different opportunities. Because let's face it, out west, they know we've got interstate shipping issues. We've got manufacturing issues. So really the fastest way for somebody to get into a new state is to merge or acquire a brand. And we have manufacturing, distribution, multiple retail stores. So we're always the first go. Everybody's like, oh, wait, how do we align? How do we partner? And there's so many great people, just like myself, it all starts with the people. And we all want the same thing, is everybody to experience cannabis in a way that's beneficial to them. And so it just, in alignment, I've got a pretty distinct path and goals we want to achieve before we go there.
Right. You also mentioned that you have a really good team, and definitely worldwide, speaking a lot of different languages and in a lot of different time zones. How does one get together the Avengers, if you will? How do you even get together this team of people that you can rely on that are on the other side of the world that, maybe you speak to just on the internet, right? You rarely see them in person. What does that look like for you? How did you build that out? How do you maintain those relationships as well? How do you align incentives? How does that all work?
Everybody's going to have their own styles, and the conferences are great places to meet people, and it's where I've definitely met some of my key people. And, I've been a speaker across the country, and so that helps connect with people. And it's always who is aligned in values and mission. I've got many of friends in this, and their only goal, they want to make money, nothing else matters. And I can still like them, but not do business with them directly. And so when it's the best way, when you find your people, you invite them to a cohort. We've got a couple of cohorts. We set up a meeting with my CEO girl bosses. We meet, frequently. Mm-hmm. And with our big peer and with mentors, the multi-million-dollar international people that we consult with, it's only once a quarter. But you got to ask. because you'll never get it if you don't ask. And most people won't ask.
What's the ask?
I found people that I thought would never in a million years talk to me, but I asked them anyway. And I said, I would really like to have you as a mentor. I think you could help me with these 3 things.
Right. So conferences, asking. Did you ever have any issues with maybe asking somebody to be your mentor and maybe 2 months down the line, you're like, I don't know if this is the best fit, where you actually had to do the mentor firing? Does that ever end up happening?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
But that's why it's super casual. And it's when I keep talking about leading from the heart too, I just say, I don't know what it is. There is an attraction. There is questions I have for you. And who knows what's going to happen. But I have a lot of information too. And that's always how it starts. You know, another great thing, and this is a shout out to you and podcasts. I am dedicated to podcast listener. I don't usually watch things. I listen. And there are so many people that I have come in contact with through podcasts I never would have been. They're not necessarily, we're all running businesses, not necessarily showing up at a trade show to speak. And so I've reached out, and it is an amazing way, whether it be one question, 1 month, or ongoing. And I've had several that have cycled through different things, like our international stuff. We were meeting every 2 weeks for a quarter. And now we're like, all right, now we're back to quarterly. It changes. And it's all, really, we have to lead from the heart. It can't all be head, because we'll go crazy. You can't figure it out.
Yeah, then we'll just be all
we just
AI
spent a
running
whole year.
It's just all in the head.
And they spent a whole year for the whole country saying they're rescheduling it. Right? Everybody was planning on it being rescheduled. And that is a totally different scenario than we are right now when they didn't do that. So caution, a lot of people want jump. They just like, oh, and this is all my suffering comes from my impatience. I am a go-getter, and sitting on it. There's some projects that I've had that have been ongoing for 7 years and part of the mission. And just sitting on it. That's a hard thing to do. But if you don't know, sit on it.
Right.
Wait.
Right. I would say that is the definition of patience. It's wanting to do something almost immediately, but having the patience and discipline to understand that, okay, maybe now's not the right time, right? Maybe you might be impatient in the day-to-day where it's like, I want to do this, I want to do that. But look, over the course of your business, 7 years, past 20 years, just developing all this information, compounding knowledge over the time, I would define you as a patient person, although it might not feel that way on the inside. You want to go and you want to do all these different things, but don't sell yourself short. To me anyways, in this very short conversation, I think you're a very patient person.
Well, I appreciate that. I put space between me and all my responses, but I've got a lot of things working on.
I'm sure. So you mentioned mentors as being a massive part of, kind of your network, learning, whether it's business partners or not business partners, just being able to kind of network and meet people that you wouldn't have met otherwise, right? Do you have any other resources where you learn from? YouTube channels? You mentioned podcasts that you listen to. Do you have any books that you'd recommend? What does that look like for you?
I love podcasts. And when I find one that's good with the speaker that really resonates, I'll go all the way down the rabbit hole and follow them, because usually that person is also anybody that you're talking about. They have a rich history of YouTube. So I will follow an interest all the way through the rabbit hole, wherever it may take me. I love research. And then I'll also look up other things about people, which are interesting. And YouTube is a really, really good source for cannabis. It's not as filtered. It's easy to get information. It's easier to get it in a fuller context. And I love YouTube as a great resource for channels. Then there's a lot of books out there. It depends on what you're most interested in. I'm in several of the wellness books and several of the cookbooks, because I think consuming cannabis internally is has helped heal my digestion. And I'm a cook. I farm. We grow food here. So, whatever your interests are, but I think I like books that are references and resources. So we have CBD, A Patient's Guide. We have some of our books that we use, but there's all sorts of things. There's publications. These are for entertainment and to keep you on the cusp of what everybody's talking about, in the know. But when you find somebody through these podcasts, stick with your podcast. Maybe you don't like one out of, 4, but that's how you know where you resonate. What can you hear? People see and hear and understand different sources. But podcast, YouTube, I don't like to be on a computer outside of working. So that's why I love podcasts, because I can listen when I travel.
Right.
One of my favorites. And that's not just a shout out to you. You're very fun and dynamic. And I love the ones where you make your silly faces. Yeah. You'll have to do one of those for me. But I really do think it's the best format because you delve into a subject.
Yeah.
And you're getting a full perspective of it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, in my own selfish way, it also allows me to talk to people that I normally wouldn't talk to and ask the questions that, I normally wouldn't be able to ask you, right? Like if this was just maybe a simple email, I would be able to just, hey, Franny, can I ask you 1 to 10 questions and you answer them? I don't know, right? We do this podcast, hopefully it's value all around, right? Provides branding, provides me insights, and also provides some of the listeners some information on, how they want to move forward. I was speaking with a guy, I think last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, very recently. It's like, hey, Brandon, I've been, listening to your podcast for the past year now. I've been listening to every single episode. I'm starting up my own dispensary. Just want to say thank you for doing the podcast. And I'm like, this is awesome. I have not, a lot of subscribers. I think we're at like 600-ish, maybe 601 subscribers. But I think it's a really awesome opportunity. And at least on my side, kind of doing these podcasts, doing the marketing, it's really easy to kind of get caught up on the computer screen and just kind of type away. But this is kind of like a forced interaction, if you will. If I can't go fly all over the world and meet a bunch of people, at least I can have conversations like these. And, on the other note, it's really great to speak with people like you, because I think you're an absolute wealth of information. So I'm happy that I can, kind of go ahead and pick your brain, even though it is in a podcast format.
It's great. These podcasts have led to people doing events on my farm. We have these wonderful chefs oftentimes coming to do cannabis dinners, and they find me through these random weird ways. When you talk about marketing, the other entrepreneurs are listening to podcasts. That's how I'm connecting to a lot of people, because we're all so busy. We're keeping up on the news. Yeah. We know what's happening in the market through our network, but we're not getting to see and meet each other either. And so, it's legit marketing.
But before we continue, if you're listening to this podcast, then you're probably interested in learning how to better market your own dispensary. I've got the perfect thing for you. Every Monday, I release a completely free newsletter where I send out advanced marketing and SEO strategies sent directly to your inbox. These strategies are a little bit too advanced, so I don't normally post it on social media because it can come across as a bit boring, but these strategies will significantly push your dispensary forward in ways that you couldn't even imagine. If this is something that you're interested in, please check out the links in the description below. You can sign up for the newsletter. It's completely free. It's designed to be read and consumed in 4 minutes or less, and you can unsubscribe at any time. So if you hate it, and if you hate me, you can go ahead and leave. I'll see you there. Go check out the links in the description below. So you mentioned previously how the way that you keep an eye on things is looking at your reports, right? So on a very high level, again, you don't need to, go into any secrets or anything like that. What are some of the key metrics that you keep an eye on just to make sure that things are progressing? I'm assuming you're not diving into these spreadsheets every single day, looking at all the decimal points and making sure that everything is good. From a high level overview, how do you just kind of make sure that things are just going in the right direction, if you will?
I look for the stability in everything.
Okay.
I know exactly what we should be expecting in orders based on marketing and the time of year, retail versus online. This is the consistency. And so when we're planning launch plans and you start something new, then you're going through all your avenues and you start from a baseline and you follow it. But once you reach that stability, now you know if something's going astray. We always know our top 10 products are almost always the same top 10 products. Our top revenue generators, almost always the top revenue generators. And so we're at a point where we have baselines, and I will look first off if there's anything skewed. Is our site traffic down? Is it up? That's in marketing, because marketing drives sales. So those are some of the most important reports I'll look at. Fortunately, I have the most amazing partner COO that is looking at all the distribution, tracking. They're looking at all the system reports. I'm focused on sales and revenue. And that's what the CEO has to do. It is very easy to go down a rabbit hole and get pulled in so many directions, especially when we're vertically integrated. I mean, whoa, so reports and the systems will set us free. Know what you're looking for every time. It makes it a whole lot easier.
Right.
Definitely. And it takes months and months. See, we have year on year. We have month on month over year of data now. And, if it's not data driven, then you're on a slow to fast, expiration date.
Right.
You don't know if it's working if it doesn't. In digital marketing, it's great. Gives it all to you. You just got to know how to read it.
Right. On the data side, especially on the digital marketing side, because that's kind of like closer to my realm, how do you kind of filter out the noise of just other things that are going on? So I'll give you an example. So let's say on a high level, you're looking at your revenue numbers month over month, year over year, and then just seeing kind of like, okay, based on seasonality, last June looked like this, the previous June looked like this, so on and so forth, right? How do you kind of equate the different changes in market? Like, let's say you're looking at sales revenue numbers for one location, right? And then let's say 4 stores open up around there. And it's like, okay, there's obviously a drop in sales, but then you also maybe did some additional marketing to help boost sales, right? How do you go about filtering the noise of what is more so outside of your control in terms of like maybe how much competition is out there to maybe your marketing isn't as effective this year? Maybe you didn't go on as many, let's say, for example, TED Talks, right? So, your brand wasn't out there as often. How do you kind of equate, the roller coaster of data to something that is a positive, that is hopefully moving in a positive direction? I hope that makes sense.
That's a great question. And, experience helps. But I loved your example because this has happened every time. We have a store, a bunch of other stores open. What is happening? Well, one thing we can do when we do digital media and marketing is geo-target their stores, just like big stores do us. It's a really easy way to make sure that your people are not getting out, promoted by another brand. And it's real. A year ago, D8, that was the $1 million product, right? And then it became illegal in a whole bunch of states. So we looked at how D8 was declining, but what was the replacement? What was growing in its place? Because people were just switching products. They weren't leaving. And so it's really important to know what the market is, especially in this area. SEO, there's so many things, and you just got to stay on top of it every time, all the time. And the number one thing that I have heard along the way, people are always like, where's Franny? We started a campaign. It was a joke because, I've been so busy and started some new enterprises within our enterprises and opened new stores. And I was like, what happened to Franny? And so we recognize that, well, against my choice, really, they interact. They're like, we got to put Franny more, you got to come back in manufacturing and talk about how we're making these products. You got to show the people. We need you telling people, not a meme or not anything else. And so that's been, a really important marketing thing. But we didn't discover it. People asked for it. We sent out a survey. Hey, what would you like more of? We have newsletters, we have sales promotions, people can sign up more. And one of the little bubbles said, you want more messages from Franny. And underneath it, it was about the products, about the farm, about women in leadership. And that all those buttons got pushed. And then I'm like, but I'm the CEO and I'm back in marketing. I am the brand as well. So I was like, oh, CEO rabbit, squirrel, like marketing, manufacturing, this. But, marketing is very, very important, and you'll get shut down. Social media, websites, YouTube, anything people do, it's very delicate too, because new people, they get shut down and it puts you out of business. You put a bunch of money and time, and without social media and a respectable following, it's the yellow book. Nobody's going to buy from you, and it was hard. We had, on my farm, we were the first people to do goat yoga with my sister farm out in Oregon as a joke, because I was like, listen, these goats need to earn their money. Everybody working for the company's got to earn their money, right? And usually they need to earn you at least 4x of what their salary is. So we were joking about goats not earning their keep on the farm and taking too much. And so we started goat yoga. This is the fun part, though, is discovering and watching, what's happening and how are you flowing. And also knowing, like, nothing really happens fast. Right. I've been in the press 90 times. I was on Vice TV, Fox, everywhere. Southern Living, the farm's been in Southern Living. I've been all over the place. None of that is going to make you rich. It just builds the story. And we have people now that really care. They care where their stuff is coming from.
Do you find being the face of a company both a gift and a curse?
Well, I like to say a gift or a lesson. There is no curse in my world. It's always just a lesson, though. That covers the other stuff. Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting place. And what an honor, because to be trusted and for people to, that's part of what, there's not many people that will stand up and just tell you like it is. Yeah. I had farmers that grew for me that had their farms burned down by the feds. Mm-hmm. And as a leader, I have to stand up and say, like, not everything goes great, and I'm responsible, and oh well, I take responsibility for all of it, but very interesting lessons that have made me a better person. The hard ones, the ones that we really take back, that knock us on our ass.
Yeah.
Those are really some of the biggest gifts in disguise.
Right. Yeah, I think they say it's not what you get out of the lesson, it's the person that you become from the lesson. So, you become a different person, right? You walk through the fire, you're like, I am now a different version of myself because of what I went through, right? And sometimes it's crippling, hopefully it's not, but you can kind of get through the other side, just a stronger version of yourself than you were before.
I like that. Yes. Well, maybe that's why I am just tough as nails and can always smile through it all. I'm like, I really
Yeah. Look, that's really what it is, right? It's like, you keep on getting up. And I think a very easy analogy is like, when you're a little baby, right? You don't kind of complain about how many times you fall down. You just kind of keep on going, right? But as you kind of, live life, lessons, now you're like negatively reinforced through those lessons. It's like, I raised my hand in class. You got it wrong. The kids in the class laugh at you because you did it wrong, right? Or you do this, you get on a bike, you fall down. Your friends laugh at you because you fell down. So it's like you get this like negative reinforcement for these lessons. Whereas previously, it's just like when you're a baby, you just kind of continued and then you walked, right? And as you continue getting older and older, you're like, these lessons aren't a curse. They're not a bad thing. They're just a thing that helps me shape who I want my future self to be, right? I think that's a very good frame, at least for myself. It really helps me when, I go through these.
I love that. We celebrate mistakes and then we fix them real fast.
Yes.
And one of our mottos is, if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying.
Right.
Because we're always trying. And I love that about the walking baby. They fall and we're like,
Yeah.
job. You know, we're not like, don't ever walk again.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
and life is not so easy with those sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah, just sometime along the way, those mistakes are just internalized a little bit worse, I think. And again, it's just kind of environment and peers and stuff like that. But it's a long journey, but it's funny. You kind of get older and you kind of go back. You're like, these things aren't as bad. You walk through the fire, and you've done it multiple times, and you keep on doing it. You're like, I'm alive. It's okay. Everything is good. This is a hard thing that's in front of me. I've gone through hard things previously many, many times. So you kind of have that confidence to kind of walk through and one step in front of the other. And, I say, if you want to do something hard, you become an entrepreneur. If you want to do something very, 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 very hard, you become a cannabis entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That just makes things like magnitudes more difficult than just being a regular entrepreneur.
I know. I've had so many businesses before I got in here and still didn't even realize. So when they shut my farm Instagram down, we had over 40,000 followers.
Yeah.
And you don't get that back. And everybody is worried. They're like, what happened? And all the scams and now all this, the meta, it almost makes it impossible for people to do what they once did that I had done.
Yeah.
And cannabis wiped it all clean. And I was like, oh, wow. For the fourth website, we finally got our own server and just had to build it all ourselves because they kept shutting our website down.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, well, I will do it another way.
Yeah. Can't just go on Shopify and start up a website and start selling clothing on there and everything be okay. You have to kind of build it from scratch.
Yep. And a lot of systems and it's getting better. It really is. There's a lot of tools that our franchises now have that they didn't have early on. Still, one of the biggest benefits of what we offer in franchise is the network of discounts, because still banking, for anybody looking to get in this, banking, the way we market is so heavily regulated, just like tobacco and alcohol, even more so. And I did not know. Building houses was my favorite thing during pharmaceutical sales, like my side job, and building this farm. And we've had multiple businesses, and it definitely prepared me. You've got to know business. This is, a lot of people get in this and they don't know anything. Another good reason, you better join up with somebody that does, partners, or get in a franchise system where you're continually supported, because there's a whole bunch more coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
And it's so much more fun when you do it together and with people that are all invested in success.
Mm-hmm.
It's more fun. We got to have some fun along the way. And just like, we have this beautiful cannabis, but we can't just be consuming it to deal with our anxiety of being in the business.
Yeah.
And
right.
That's what happens a lot of time. We're like, all right.
Yeah.
So having the fun, I think, is doing it with other people when you have the same goals in mind.
I agree. So where do you see the future of the cannabis industry heading?
We will sometime be deregulated, and it will all be legal. And there is a lot of speculation. I just got back from Marin County and big meetings in California. Very interesting to see the polarity and also some of the same similarities that's happening in politics. And I think we could have a wild card this election in the next 4 months. Two of the biggest manufacturers of cannabinoids are actually on very opposite ends of the spectrum there. So I think we could get a wild cards happening. We are definitely going to see more medical is easy to push through. So we will see more states adopt medical. And I do believe that we were going to get this farm bill finalized in the new term. So I sat on the board of the FDA for 2 years, and they never made any progress. And I think I will be also politically involved again to help steer this. But the ultimate goal, we all want it. We all want it. And we need it unregulated. That's how people, that's how we're going to be able to save the economy. Save the economy.
Yes.
It is an interest. I said, "Oh, save it, huh?" When I was like, "This is interesting." Lots of buzzwords, but everybody politically knows. They know that cannabis is a way to infuse a whole new industry, because the Farm Bill has also stalled hemp being used for clothing, building materials. I've been involved in all of these. We have incubated businesses 7 and 8 years ago, and all of them that have not been able to thrive because of Farm Bill regulations.
Right.
So that is going to change everything. And when we get our new federal THC limits and status, now every state has gone through and fought these minor cannabinoids. They're getting there and getting more able to make the decisions.
Right.
And there's a lot. I came from pharmaceuticals. I know what's happening out there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people. The medical side funds the wheel, the big system, insurance, doctors, so they love medical. But we know every place recreation follows behind medical, it'll cannibalize 60% of the business. Medical takes millions upon millions of more dollars to get set up because it's regulated by the state and the feds. So it's a perfect way to create confusion, is to put people within your own industry against each other.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty old tactic that our government does. Let's put the people against each other so we can control it.
Yeah.
And cannabis people really need to come together. It's the internal conflict that's where the confusion is.
Yeah. And that's a completely separate thing. But I'm finding, like, out of all of the industries, as long as this, kind of cannabis has been around, it's still kind of, it's not even federally legal right now, right? So it's still kind of like an infant. It's a little baby. And I find that there is not as much collaboration in this space as there are in, like, other industries. I had someone else on the podcast, and he was talking about how he owned a bar, and all of the other of his bar buddies would get together at the end of the night, go grab a beer, kind of chit chat, and then go along their merry way. But in this space, it's like, oh, I don't want to tell anybody about my secret or about this that's going on. It's super, there's not a huge collaboration effort. I even tried to kind of get a bunch of dispensary owners together, say, hey, we can kind of lift each other up. Like, we can do a lot of things. Didn't really work out too well. But, hopefully, we can get that back together, because I truly think, like, the power of being able to network with others, it doesn't have to be your competition, it doesn't have to be the person down the street, right? But just in different states, what people are seeing, you can learn a lot from the more mature markets, like in the Colorado and California markets. If people from New York can kind of just talk to people over there and see, like, hey, what happened when you guys started, and how would you do it differently, right? And I think that's just a very easy question to start that. So again, I'm with you. We need a big collaboration. We need people together instead of apart, because it just makes it easier for, again, the powers that may be aside to control us all, if you will.
Yeah, I think you explain it very well. And I think the women in this industry are much better about the collaborations and about working together. As we've seen this roll out state after state, and just from where my involvement is, and really all of the 3 industries within cannabis. Yeah. I mean, we're in New York and I love it. We are doing bong rips and smoking these out of these cups. The first smoking lounge on a rooftop in New York City. It's great. And these cups, they look like snow cone cups that they pack with a bong, and then you can sip it through a straw. Bands, 90s, they're breakdancing. Amazing party. And then you see New York, one of the biggest shit shows of any state. And I do a bunch of business in New York because it's only, as I always say, within $200 in 2 hours, I'm in New York. And it's an international city. I was always like, and we did this for a year, or 2 years even. We were talking about the same thing. Collaborations, we're advising, we're meeting on advisory boards and talking to politicians. And then time after time, we're like, what happened? There's 100 buses out on the road right now selling hemp as cannabis, and and then shutdowns. It was just New York City. I love the city, but it's been wild. Yeah. And why didn't we? And the thing is, we're all there talking and collaborating. We're even at the table, and we're like, and then everybody afterwards, we're like, wait, who made the decisions? Who ultimately made the decisions that were really not what everybody is taking? There's so many lessons to learn from others. Why aren't we doing that?
Yeah.
Good questions, right? It's because money. People are following the money before they're really following, and the people with the money usually are the ones making the rules.
Yeah, the deep pockets rule all, at least right now. So we have this really cool segment where we ask the previous owner a question that they have for the next guest, and then you can go ahead and ask the next guest, a different question. So this is from Jeff Similian. He's from Low Key Cannabis, and he asks, why did you get into this industry? And I think you touched on this a little bit, but if you want to provide a little bit more context, go ahead.
Well, when I was a teenager at 15, I smoked weed for the first time, and I declared, I love this plant. I want to work for this plant. They still remember, my friends still remember. I was like, this plant should be my boss. And it is a joke that we laugh about all the time. So I think I set it in stone then, because I do all this stuff. Obviously, ADD, I can do a whole lot of things. But when I need to focus, and we didn't have Google, so we had to go to school and do all these, get degrees. And I have all these degrees. And I had to show up every day. Oh, it was difficult.
You had to read books and textbooks. Come on now.
No good. I remember when spell check, cut, and paste came on board, and I was like, yes. So maybe forever, at 15. And then when I was in pharmaceuticals, behind the scenes, I never said anything, but I always said, I'm in the unhealth care industry. Plants are where real health is. And I've been studying, plants forever. And so I love this industry, but I don't think there was ever anything that said, like, I'm going to do this. I've kind of always been dabbling in it. And thank goodness for cannabis, because it helped me pay for college. I was dealing weed to my sorority. And that's how I got through college, when you have to pay for it yourself. And I was like, this beautiful plant has supported me my whole life, So I don't know how I got in it. And listen, even being the first female farmer, I didn't know until 8 months after I planted, and I got an award, and they asked me to be the speaker for the national press conference. I was like, what? I'm going to call the Department of Agriculture in North Carolina. And I was like, I just got some award. What happened? And so, it wasn't real. I was trying to find other people to plant. I was like, I got all these seeds. Who's planting? And everybody's like, no. So, it was either husband, spouse, family, God, or fear, that I got so many no's. Nobody would plant. And that's why I did it. So I love the question.
That's awesome.
That was a good one.
So what question would you have for the next owner that I interview?
I am really interested in the whole entrepreneurial spirit, and wanting to know if what experience and business they had before getting into cannabis that made them think that this was a great thing, and how it translated into their business. And if they think you need to have a business experience. There's so many people getting into it because they left cannabis without business. So I'm very interested in the entrepreneur and what they did before they got into cannabis.
Perfect. And lastly, for those who are interested in Franny's Farmacy, where can they go about finding you?
Well, FRANNY, Franny's going to get you everywhere. Tacy, that's my women's leadership. Farm, that's the farm. And Farmacy, FARMACY, gets you to where all our products are.
Fantastic. That's it. Do you want to plug anybody else? You can plug all your locations, where you're located, any of the addresses.
Absolutely.
Plug everything. Go for it. Everything.
All right. Well, we are all over North Carolina. We're in Asheville, Hendersonville, Hickory, Raleigh, and got some more things slated in North Carolina. In Georgia, we're in Athens and Augusta, and we're all over eCom and YouTube. You can find us everywhere, all over social media. We're a ton of fun. Connect.
Perfect. Well, Franny, thank you for taking the time out of your day to hop on the show. This is awesome. When we had a pre-call a little while ago, I think we spoke about kind of the positivity and trying to being able to translate that, especially online. I think it's really hard just being able to say, hey, how's it going? Well, the day's really awesome, actually. The sun's shining, my health is good, everything's great. Instead of hey, how's it going? Oh, everything's all right. This bad thing happened, so on and so forth, right? But even with this conversation, I know you said you're an impatient person. I think you're a very patient person. But aside from that, I think you're also a very knowledgeable person as well. Clearly, you've been through the gauntlet. You've done a lot of things in this space, and then you're also open to sharing a lot of that information as well. We spoke about it earlier in this podcast to where it's just like, yeah, it's an industry where people like to kind of, be in a bubble. They want to keep their secrets. They're really looking out for themselves, but just kind of based on the brand that you have, and honestly, being able to run an international company, being able to work with a lot of people, I think that speaks a lot to your character. Again, I know this is very virtual and we've only had this conversation, but just kind of based on your accolades and all the stuff that you've done in the past, I think it's really, really awesome. So just wanted to say thank you for hopping on the show.
It has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you better.
Fantastic.
I appreciate this.
Well, for those who are still listening, my name's Brandon. I'm the host of the Dispensary Marketing Podcast and the founder of CANNABIS Marketing, the #1 agency of choice if you're looking to market your dispensary in both Canada and the United States. So until next time, see you guys later. Bye.